People think becoming a man is about strength, but it's not. It's about carrying the weight of secrets you didn't ask for, making choices you're not ready for, and waking up one day realizing your whole life has been built on a lie. I didn't know it yet, but everything I thought I knew about my father, about my family, was about to unravel, and it started with one letter. I was 32 when I found it. The letter. The one thing that would shatter everything I thought I knew about my life. It was buried inside an old cedar box at the back of my late father's closet, hidden beneath stacks of dusty military plaques and yellowed photographs from a life I thought I understood. I'd been cleaning out Mom's house, a quiet Saturday spent sorting through decades of memories neither of us wanted to touch. She'd finally decided to downsize, and I was there to help her pack. But when I found that box, tucked deep behind a loose panel in the closet wall, my chest tightened. It was locked, but the key was taped underneath, like he wanted me to find it someday. Inside, there was no jewelry, no medals, no keepsakes. Just one sealed envelope. My name on the front. Ethan. I sat on the edge of the bed, turning it over in my hands. The weight of it felt wrong. Heavy, like whatever was inside wasn't meant to be mine. When I finally tore it open, I expected something sentimental. Maybe an apology for all the years he missed birthdays. Maybe a confession of regret or pride or love. But instead, Ethan, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. I need you to listen carefully. There are people you cannot trust. People close to you. Be careful with Olivia. Do not tell her what you find. If you value your life and hers, stay away from the broker. The paper slipped from my hands. The broker? Don't trust Olivia? My wife? I sat there, stunned, staring at the note until the words blurred through my tears. My father had died when I was 10. I'd spent 2 decades wishing I'd had more time with him, more conversations, more memories. Now, the only thing he'd left me was fear. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, watching Olivia breathe softly beside me, my chest tight with the weight of his warning. She'd been my anchor through everything. The layoffs, the bills, the endless grind of building a life that always felt 2 steps behind. She came from a Navy family, disciplined and quiet, never one to talk much about her past. I told myself Dad was paranoid. Maybe it was PTSD from his years in service. Maybe the disease that took him clouded his mind. But something inside me refused to let it go. The next morning, I went back to the box. Underneath the letter was a second envelope, smaller, sealed with wax. Inside was a USB drive, nothing else. No label, no instructions. I hesitated for an hour before plugging it into my laptop. The screen flickered and a single video file popped up. I clicked. My father's face filled the screen. Older than I remembered him. Hair grayer. Skin worn by years I hadn't been there to see. He was sitting in a dimly lit room, glancing over his shoulder like he wasn't supposed to be recording this. Ethan, I can't explain everything now. They're watching me. They've always been watching. If you're seeing this, it means they've gotten to me. His eyes shifted and his voice dropped lower. The broker isn't a name, it's a network. Trust no one, especially Olivia. I'm sorry, son. The video cut out abruptly. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't paranoia. This was a man terrified for his life. I closed the laptop and sat there in silence, my heart pounding so loud I could hear in my ears. I wanted to confront Olivia right then, to demand answers, to scream at her. But when she came home from work, smiling like nothing was wrong, something in me froze. I studied her face as she kicked off her shoes, her laughter filling the kitchen as she unpacked takeout bags. It was the same smile I'd fallen in love with, the same voice that soothed me through sleepless nights. But now I didn't know if any of it was real. Later that night, I couldn't take it anymore. I asked her about Dad, casually, carefully. Did he ever say anything to you before he passed? Anything strange? Her fork froze midair. It was subtle, but I saw it, that half-second hesitation before she forced a smile. No, she said too quickly. Why? I shook my head, pretended to drop it, but inside, the doubt grew louder. 2 days later, things got worse. I noticed a black SUV parked across the street from our house. No plates. Windows tinted dark. It was there when I left for work. It was there when I came home. That night, as I stepped outside to grab the mail, I caught a glimpse of a figure inside the vehicle. Broad shoulders, hoodie pulled low, the faint glow of a cigarette burning in the dark. We realized I was looking. The engine roared to life, and the SUV sped away. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, random, coincidence. But deep down, I knew better. The breaking point came a week later. I woke up to the sound of Olivia whispering on the phone in the hallway. Her back was turned, her voice hushed and urgent. I stepped closer, careful not to make a sound. "Yes, he found it," she said softly. Pause. "No, I didn't tell him anything. I know what's at stake." I froze. My chest burned as I stumbled back into bedroom, crawling under the sheets before she came in. That night, I lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, the letter and the video replaying in my mind like a broken record. Whatever this was, I was in it now. 3 days later, I found another envelope in our mailbox. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. Me, standing at my father's grave. On the back, in jagged handwriting, "You're running out of time." I knew that my father had been right. This wasn't about grief anymore. This wasn't about paranoia. This was war. And it had just found me. I thought the letter was a secret. But I was wrong. That was only the key. And the moment I unlocked it, my life stopped belonging to me. The morning after I found the photo in my mailbox, I drove to my mom's house without telling Olivia. I needed answers, and there was only one person left who might have them. Mom had aged more than I'd realized. The years had carved shadows under her eyes. But when I walked in and sat across from her at the kitchen table, it wasn't her face that struck me. It was how calm she looked, like she'd been expecting this moment. I pulled the letter and the USB drive from my jacket pocket, placing them between us. "Mom," I said quietly, "how much of Dad's life do I actually know?" She froze, her teacup halfway to her lips. Her gaze flicked down to the envelope, then back up at me. And for the first time in my life, I saw fear in her eyes. "Where did you find that?" she whispered. "In his closet," I said, "behind a wall panel." She closed her eyes and took a slow, shaky breath. "I told him this would happen," she muttered under her breath. "Told him what would happen." Her hands trembled as she set the teacup down. "That you find the truth one day, that it would destroy you." I leaned in, my voice barely steady. "Then tell me, what is the broker, and why can I trust my own wife?" But instead of answering, Mom got up, walked to the pantry, and pulled down an old shoebox. Inside were photographs, faded documents, and letters written in my father's handwriting. She set one down in front of me. It was dated 1996. "Evelyn, if I don't come back, burn everything. Don't let them find you. And if they come for Ethan, run." I stared at her, my throat tight. What the hell was Dad into? Mom's voice cracked. "Your father wasn't just military, Ethan. He worked in operations, the kind they bury in seal files. He got out, but not clean. There were people who wanted what he had. A list. Names. People who disappeared. People who were paid to disappear others. The broker isn't one person. It's an organization." I felt my chest tighten. "And Olivia?" That pause again. Her silence hit harder than any answer could have. "Mom," I said softly, "what aren't you telling me?" She hesitated, then whispered, "She knew your father." I felt the floor tilt beneath me. "What are you talking about?" I didn't even meet her until years after he died. Mom nodded slowly, her voice breaking. "I told her to stay away from you, Ethan, but she didn't listen." I drove home shaking, my hands gripping the steering wheel like I could keep myself from falling apart. When I walked in, Olivia was on the couch, scrolling on her phone like nothing had changed. I sat down across from her and said, "We need to talk." She looked up, and for the first time, I saw something behind her eyes, a flicker of panic she couldn't hide fast enough. "About what?" she asked carefully. "About my dad. About the broker. About you. Her jaw tightened, and for a moment, she didn't move. Then she set her phone down and whispered, "Who told you?" It wasn't denial. It wasn't confusion. It was confirmation. That night, she finally told me a story I wasn't ready to hear. She met my father when she was 16. Her parents were stationed at the same Navy base where he worked operations under a false name. I didn't know who he really was back then, she said quietly. Nobody did. He helped my family once. After that, he told me to forget I ever met him. I did. Until what? I demanded. She hesitated. Until I found out he'd left something behind. Something people would kill to find. The list, I whispered. Her silence was my answer. I felt like the room was spinning. All these years, Olivia knew pieces of my father's secret life, and never told me. You should have trusted me, I said bitterly. She shook her head. You don't understand. Ethan, they watch everything. They're not just after you. They're after anyone close to you. I didn't know if I believed her, but when she took my hand, trembling, I knew one thing. The fear in her voice was real. 2 nights later, it happened again. The black SUV, parked across the street. This time, I didn't just watch from the window. I walked out. The door creaked open. A man stepped out slowly, dressed in a dark hoodie. His face was shadowed, but I caught a detail on his wrist, a raven tattoo. You need to stop digging, he said calmly, like we were old friends. Who are you? I demanded. He ignored the question. There are forces bigger than you, Ethan. You opened the wrong door and you don't close it again. He turned to leave, but I stepped in front of him. Who sent you? For the first time, his voice hardened. The broker doesn't send warnings twice. Then he got into the SUV and drove away. The next morning, I called the number my father left on the USB metadata, a contact I hadn't noticed before. It rang twice, then a man picked up. Who is this? I'm Ethan Cole. My father was Jonathan Cole. There was silence on the line. Then the man exhaled sharply. You need to get out of that house. Why? I demanded, because if you found the letter, they already know. Who are you? He hesitated. Someone who owes your father. Go to the address I'm sending you. Bring no one. No phones. Before I could ask more, the call ended. A moment later, my phone buzzed with a text. A motel on the edge of town. When I told Olivia I had to step out, she begged me not to go. They'll kill you, she said, her voice breaking. If this is about the list, you have no idea what you're walking into. But I couldn't stay in the dark anymore. When I pulled into the motel lot, there was only one other car, a black SUV. Inside, the air was damp, smelling of cigarettes and mold. A flickering light hummed in the corner. And on the bed, a manila folder. My father's name written across the top. I stepped closer, hands shaking, and slowly opened it. Inside were newspaper clippings, surveillance photos, and a single page written in my father's handwriting. Ethan, if you've come this far, it means Daniel has failed. I froze. Daniel? The name meant nothing to me until I turned the page over and saw it. A birth certificate. Same last name. Same father. Different mother. I had a brother, and he was still alive. I stumbled out of the motel into the cold night air, my mind reeling. A brother I never knew existed. A list powerful enough to get people killed. A wife tangled in secrets older than us both. I didn't know where this was leading, but I knew one thing for sure. Whatever my father had started, it wasn't over, not even close. When I found out I had a brother, I thought I'd uncover my father's deepest secret. I was wrong. Daniel wasn't the secret. He was the key. And the broker wasn't hunting me. They were waiting for me. I drove home from the motel with my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. A brother. A man named Daniel Cole. I kept whispering the name under my breath, like saying it out loud would make it real. But when I walked into the house, Olivia was standing in the doorway, her face pale and her hands clenched into fists. Where were you? She asked, her voice shaking. I held up the folder, slamming it on the table. You tell me, Olivia. You knew about Daniel, didn't you? Her eyes widened. Daniel? I studied her reaction carefully. Every twitch of her face, every flicker in her eyes. If she was acting, she deserved an Oscar. You really didn't know? I muttered. She shook her head slowly, still confused. Ethan, I have no idea who that is. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed with a folder in my lap, rereading my father's message over and over again. If you've come this far, it means Daniel has failed. Failed at what? Protecting something? Or protecting me? I needed answers, and only one person could give them to me. The next morning, I called the number from the motel. The man picked up on the first ring. You found the file, he said. Who the hell is Daniel? I demanded. Silence. Then finally, he said, he's your brother, and if you found his name, that means he's running out of time. Running out of time for what? The man hesitated, his voice low and steady when he finally spoke. Because the broker doesn't forgive failure, Ethan. And Daniel's been on the run for 7 years. My throat tightened. Where is he? I don't know. But I can tell you this. He's trying to finish what your father started. And if the broker finds him first, they'll make him disappear, just like they did your dad. I pressed harder. What does the broker want? That list, he said simply. The one your father died protecting. And if you're smart, Ethan, you'll burn everything you found and walk away. But it was too late for that. I'd already opened the door. That evening, I drove out to the industrial district to clear my head. The city lights faded in the rearview mirror, replaced by empty warehouses and cracked pavement. And that's when I saw it, the same black SUV, parked, waiting. This time, I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the tire iron from my trunk, marched up, and yanked the door open. Empty. I stepped back, heart pounding, when I heard footsteps behind me. Drop it, a voice said coldly. I turned slowly. It was a man with a raven tattoo. Only this time, he wasn't warning me. This time, he had a gun. Where's Daniel? He asked. I don't know, I said carefully. Wrong answer. He stepped closer, the gun raised. My chest tightened as I backed against the SUV, feeling the cold metal against my spine. Then, suddenly, headlights. Another car screeched around the corner, slamming to a stop. The driver's door flew open, and a tall figure jumped out, yelling, "Get away from him." The raven-tattooed man turned, aiming his gun, but the newcomer was faster. A single shot cracked through the air, and the raven man dropped instantly. I stumbled back, gasping, as the stranger lowered his weapon and looked straight at me. "Ethan," he said, his voice rough. It was him. Daniel. I stood frozen, my entire body numb. "I thought you were dead," I whispered. He shook his head slowly. "Not yet, but if you keep digging, you will be." I stared at him, speechless. There he was, the brother I never knew existed, standing right in front of me, looking like a ghost. "I need answers," I said finally, my voice trembling. "What's going on? Why is everyone after us?" Daniel glanced at the dead man on the ground and muttered, "This was a mistake. Meeting you, finding you, it puts you in their sights." He started walking toward his car, but I grabbed his arm. "Don't you dare leave me in the dark." Daniel turned, his jaw tight. "You want the truth? The broker isn't after you. They're after her." "Olivia?" He nodded. Back at home, Olivia sat on the couch when I stormed in. "Tell me the truth," I demanded, tossing the blood-stained folder onto the table. She stared at it, then looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Ethan," she whispered, "I never wanted this life for you." "What life?" I shouted. "The one your father built," she said, her voice trembling. "He left me something. Years ago, before we ever met." "What did he give you?" She hesitated, then whispered, "The key to the list." I felt the air leave my lungs. "You've had it all this time?" She nodded slowly, tears rolling down her cheeks. That's when I realized the truth. The broker didn't just want a list. They wanted Olivia because she was the only one who could unlock it. Before I could process it, there was a sudden crash, the sound of glass shattering in the kitchen. I turned just as masked men stormed in, dressed in black, armed with silenced pistols. Down! I screamed, grabbing Olivia and dragging her behind the couch. Gunfire ripped through the room, tearing holes in the drywall. I crawled toward the hallway, pulling her with me, my heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. Daniel burst through the front door, firing back at the intruders, his voice booming. Go! Now! We scrambled into the backyard, sprinting into the darkness as bullets cracked past our heads. Daniel stayed behind, holding them off long enough for us to reach the car. I floored the gas pedal, tires screaming against the pavement as Olivia sobbed beside me, her hands trembling. Through the rear-view mirror, I saw Daniel, one man against three, disappearing into the chaos. Then silence. We didn't stop driving until we reached an abandoned rest area 30 miles out of town. I parked under a broken streetlight, killed the engine, and sat there in the dark. Finally, Olivia broke the silence. They'll never stop Ethan, she whispered. Not until they get the list. And if Daniel's dead... I slammed my fist against the steering wheel. He's not dead. I know it. But deep down, I didn't believe my own words. I pulled the folder from the dashboard and spread the papers across the hood of the car under the dim glow of the streetlight. And that's when I saw it. A code scribbled in my father's handwriting on the back of a photo. R17. I stared at it, heart racing. I'd seen it before. It was carved into the bottom of the cedar box, where I found the first letter. That wasn't just a box. It was a location. I looked at Olivia, determination replacing fear. They want the list? I said, then we find it first. She stared back at me, wiping her tears. And when we do, I swallowed hard. Then we burn everything. But even as I said it, I knew the truth. This wasn't just about surviving anymore. This was about finishing what my father started. And for the first time since finding that letter, I realized something chilling. The broker wasn't chasing me. They were leading me straight into their trap. My whole life, I thought my father died a good man, but now I know he died keeping secrets. And one of those secrets? He gave me a brother I never knew existed. A brother who now has my wife. And the answers I've been chasing my entire life. This is Life Untold, where the past claws its way back into the present. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because what happens next will stay with you long after the story ends. I thought I was running from the broker, but the truth? They were never chasing me. They were guiding me, straight into the trap my father warned me about. The next morning, Olivia and I drove back to my father's house, the place where all of this began. Neither of us spoke the entire ride. The silence between us was heavier than the secrets still unspoken. We parked outside and walked straight to the attic, to the cedar box where I'd first found the letter. I turned it over and stared at the carved mark again. R17. Storage unit? Olivia whispered. I shook my head. Coordinates. Using my phone, I traced the location, an abandoned airstrip 40 minutes outside the city. And just like that, we had our next destination. We reached the airstrip just before sundown. The entire place was silent, the hangars collapsing into themselves, weeds sprouting through cracked concrete. The kind of place you could scream and nobody would ever hear you. Inside one of the hangars, under a pile of rusted sheet metal, I found it, a locked steel case bolted to the floor. The numbers R17 were etched into the side. I reached for the latch, but froze when I heard footsteps behind us. Don't, a voice said sharply. I turned slowly. Daniel, alive. He looked exhausted, pale, bleeding from his arm, but he was standing. You shouldn't be here, he said, glancing around the hangar like we were being watched. You're alive. I breathed, stepping toward him. I don't have time, he cut me off. If you open that case without the key, it triggers a beacon. You think the broker is chasing you, Ethan? They're already here. My pulse kicked into overdrive. Then help me. Tell me what's inside. Daniel hesitated, scanning Olivia for a moment before answering. It's the original list, he said. The one Dad died protecting. Olivia stepped forward. Then we take it and disappear. Daniel shook his head grimly. No, we destroy it. I turned on him, my voice sharp. Destroy the one thing they've killed for? Why? Because that list isn't just names, Ethan. Daniel said quietly. It's leverage. It's proof. It's everything Dad uncovered about the broker's contracts, assassinations, disappearances, political deals. If this ever gets out, it doesn't end them, it starts something worse. Olivia crossed her arms. Then why not leak it? Expose them. Daniel's jaw clenched. Because they own everyone who matters. Politicians, judges, agencies. You drop this, and they erase us before breakfast. I glanced between them, my chest tightening. So what's the plan? Daniel hesitated before answering. We burn the list. We fake our deaths. And we vanish. Before I could respond, a faint buzzing filled the hangar. I turned toward the shadows. Red dots danced across the walls. Laser sights. I grabbed Olivia's hand. Daniel ducked behind the steel case, pulling his pistol. Then the broker's men stepped out of the darkness. 4 of them, armed, silent, professional. The one in front, a tall, broad man with a gray beard and ice-cold eyes, raised his hand, signaling his team to stop. You must be Ethan, he said, his voice calm. Your father would be disappointed. I tightened my grip on Olivia's hand, forcing my voice steady. Who are you? He smiled faintly. Someone who's been waiting a long time for you to open that case. Daniel stepped forward, gun drawn. He's not opening it. The man chuckled softly. Daniel, you've always been so loyal. Too bad loyalty gets you killed. In one motion, his men raised their rifles. I shoved Olivia behind the steel case and hit the floor as gunfire erupted. The sound was deafening, sparks flying off the metal walls. Daniel dropped 2 of them before a bullet grazed his shoulder, spinning him backward. I crawled toward him, dragging Olivia with me, while the last armed man advanced, methodical, steady, cold. Daniel struggled to reload, his hands shaking. Then Olivia stood up and raised her hands. What are you doing? I shouted. She stepped into the open, placing herself between us and the broker's man. Her voice was calm. I'll go with you. Daniel grabbed my arm, pulling me down before I could move. His voice was ragged, urgent. She's not giving up, Ethan. She's negotiating. I shook my head violently. Negotiating what? The key, Daniel hissed. Your wife, she's been the key all along. The gray-bearded man lowered his weapon slightly, studying Olivia with something like admiration. Smart woman, he said. You were always meant to deliver it to us. She nodded once, her expression unreadable. Then let them go, and I'll unlock it. Daniel gritted his teeth, whispering, Don't trust her. I wanted to believe he was wrong. But then Olivia looked back at me, and there was nothing in her eyes. No fear, no love, just distance. The broker's man walked toward her, and without another word, Olivia knelt beside the steel case. She removed a chain from around her neck, a small silver key dangling from it, and slid it into the lock. The latch clicked open. The case hissed softly, like a vault unsealing after decades. Inside, a stack of files. Photos, documents, evidence spanning decades. Olivia stared at the papers for a long moment, then whispered, It's all here. The broker's man smiled. Hand it over. And that's when Daniel moved. In one blur of motion, he snatched the top file and tossed it into a nearby oil drum. Sparks flew as he fired his gun into it. Flames erupted instantly. Run, he screamed. The next 60 seconds were chaos. Gunfire tore through the hangar as smoke filled the air. Olivia screamed something I couldn't hear over the roar. I grabbed her hand, maybe out of instinct, maybe out of desperation, and dragged her toward the far exit as Daniel covered us. But just before we reached the door, a sharp pain exploded in my chest as someone slammed into me from the side. We hit the ground hard. It was the gray-bearded man. He pinned me down, his hands crushing my throat, his breath hot against my face. You have no idea what you started, he hissed. Through the smoke and chaos, Daniel appeared behind him, limping, bloodied, furious. One shot. The man collapsed beside me. Daniel hauled me to my feet, his face pale. "We have to go," he gasped. I turned to find Olivia, but she was gone. The steel case was gone, too. She'd taken it. We stumbled out of the hangar as flames engulfed it from the inside. The night air was freezing against my sweat-soaked skin, the silence deafening after the storm we'd just escaped. Daniel collapsed against the hood of the car, clutching his bleeding shoulder. "She's playing both sides," he panted. "Ethan, Olivia's working for them." I shook my head, tears blurring my vision. "No, she saved us." He looked up at me, eyes hollow. "No, brother, she saved the list." And that's when my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I answered, my voice shaking. "Ethan Cole," a woman's voice said softly. It was Olivia. Her words were slow, calculated. "They were never after you. They were after me. And if you want to find me, come alone." The line went dead. I stood there in the cold, the hangar burning behind me, the smell of smoke clinging to my clothes. Daniel looked at me, his voice low and steady. "If you go after her, Ethan, there's no coming back." I stared into the darkness where Olivia had disappeared, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I didn't care. I was going after her. This isn't where Ethan's story ends. It's where it begins. Chapter 2 will change everything you thought you knew. Make sure you subscribe to Life Untold so you don't miss what comes next, because the truth is darker than you think.